All right, today we're going to be talking about a topic very close to Sachin's and my heart, the viability of general practice.
Is general practice in Australia under attack? There are a few people who think so. Welcome to the podcast by Scale My Clinic, founded by Doctors Todd Cameron and Sachin Patel, who are on a mission to help every general practice owner achieve his or her dream. The Scale My Clinic podcast is designed to leave listeners with insights and understanding gained by real lived experience that will help general practice owners create impact, get their time back, and enjoy increased revenue. Join Todd and Sachin every week as they share their stories on the Scale My Clinic podcast.
Okay, Sachin, I know you're going to have some wise words to share here. What are your thoughts around this very big topic around the viability of general practice?
Yeah, so I think starts with the definition of what's viable. Is viability just survival? Is that the level that we're happy to tolerate, or are we talking about high quality, profitable business that is sustainable on a long-term basis and supports the needs and wants of the owner? I think we've talked about it in the past. It's a common theme, a recurring theme, right, about what we're happy to tolerate as clinic owners. But I think it's okay to want, and undoubtedly owners deserve more than just viable, being just surviving.
I'm a fan of aspiration, as you know. I think if we just make it survival, then we're going to have the same problems in 10 years as we have now, right?
Absolutely. And the reality is, there are clinics that are only viable in the survival sense of the word at the moment, because there are many owners who are killing themselves to subsidize the clinic and subsidize primary care in our environment, and that's not on. Right. That's, people haven't gone through, aside from the training that they would have done, predominantly medical backgrounds, but significant proportion non-medical backgrounds. Aside from the, all that education and training that's come before, what about the risk, the time investment, the financial investment they've put into their clinics now? Owners certainly deserve way more than viable in the sense of surviving. And I think probably the elements that stand out for me is when we advocate, Todd, to our Project X members, we advocate bucket accounting methodology, right? So when you use that type of methodology, then the inclination is to build in some minimum level of acceptable return, financial return, profit. And I'll say one step further, beyond profit, cash.
I was going to say, some people will say, what's that? What's profit? Or even worse, my accountant told me I made a profit, but I can't find the money, which is a common comment, right?
Absolutely. I'm not into that. As you've taught me before, Todd, you can't take your profit and loss statement down to the supermarket and buy some bread with it. It's not happening. You want to buy bread, you got to pay with bread. Paper kind, right? That's the reality. So I think having a methodology around that is essential, and building a minimum acceptable level of financial return into that is important. It's something that many fall down on. For many, it feels too complicated to manage my finances. In essence, many of us, we just work to out-earn our mistakes. We, in this profession, in the medical profession, medical business, it's relatively simple to turn up and dial up the income side of things. So it can become very easy to make mistakes and then just cover them by either elevating income or working harder.
And there's a price for that, right? We see that all the time. Yes, you do have to pay the piper. You can show up and do more hours, but it's a pretty blunt instrument. And you see a lot of the harms that this causes in relationships, families, friendships, just not being where you should be. And remember that story you and I were privy to. We were chatting to somebody who worked with a lot of clinicians, and he was describing his experience of being in a clinician's office. And this doctor had a lot of photos of his family traveling globally to all these amazing places. And this person related to us, and he said, "Oh, you're quite a photographer." And the doctor said, "Why do you say that?" And he said, "Well, there's all these beautiful photos of your family and you're not in any of them. So I can only assume that you're the photographer." To which the doctor owner said, "Actually, no, I'm not. Sadly, I'm the one that's here that has been working, pretty well 100% of my time so that my family might be able to get these holidays." And that's not an unusual story. When I heard that story, I just about made me cry, because I can remember times when I had committed to be at something, and the worst phone call. Oh God, I just hate these phone calls. "I'm sorry, I can't make it. Something's changed," or "Somebody's let me down. They said they'd be here and they're not," or "The Saturday doctor's not coming in. I'm not going to be able to make it." I don't know if you ever had to do those calls, but man, they are the worst, and it is appalling the number of times that as an owner that kind of stuff befalls you.
100%. Over any financial thing, that is the soul breaking moment. It's like a stab deep in your soul when you've committed to something with your loved ones, and then you have to pull out. Not pleasant at all. When I think of viability, financial viability, of course we talked about bucket methodology. There's probably a couple of things that I'd say to the scalers listening that I would recommend they look out at. From an income perspective, we need to continually be looking to add value above and beyond what people expect. If people are coming for a sore toe, or they're coming for a prescription renewal, that expectation is already there. That's why I'm coming. I'm expecting that to be done. The goal in general practice and in business is helping people solve the problem they didn't know they had. So, the medical side of this would be opportunistic healthcare, but it's really just helping people beyond what they seem to have presented for. And it's something where business principles align really well with medical principles, but it's so easily forgotten. And because of that, it's so easy for that to stand out as from a value add perspective. So I think that's one part that's commonly forgotten at the income side. We're always looking at our income. We're not thinking of the value we're adding. And then from the other side, the expenses. I think this part we talked earlier, where we easily often have to out earn our mistakes. But what I'd like to say is that every dollar saved is like adding somewhere between $10 and $20 at the billing level. So if you save, $100,000, which is a significant amount, that's like adding between $1 and $2 million at a billing level. And so sometimes we can be thinking about, how do I recruit more FTE GPs? How do I add more revenue? But we could be missing a really easy win that could easily match what we were hoping to achieve by recruiting, but with no extra work, and that saving going straight to your pocket. And so, Todd, I'm going to set a little challenge for the scalers listening right now, which we call the 3% challenge. So in the next 4 weeks, why don't you find 3% of savings from your expenses, and then multiply that between 10 and 20, because that is what the equivalent addition to your billings will be. And we've done this plenty of times, Todd, and without fail, when we set the challenge, that that saving is found, because it's there, it's sitting there all the time. If you can operate on 100%, you can operate on 97%. Completely doable.
And the habit of just looking at your defense as well as your offense is just super important, both on a personal level as well as at a business level. And then of course, once you've done that, embedding it in the habits and the behaviors of the practice, so that it's not always you having a habit. I have that habit. I think that's the other thing is, if it's up to you to be the gatekeeper all the time, then that obviously creates a rate limiting step, and you're likely a bottleneck along the way. But how easy did you find this to do in your practice and such, and just to take 3% out of overhead?
Every time you can find it. I think beyond that, though, I think it's adding in the bucket methodology is the key. Because you get to a stage where you build really solid reserves in your business. My favorite example is we were having a chat with one of our members in Project X, who this particular member was talking about tax time, and they said, in previous years I've had to scramble and find tax money, and this time I'm just waiting, I'm itching to get the bill so that I can pay it, because I know all the money's set aside. I've got that and more. That's a nice place to be in, right? Without any thought or worry or concern about where's the money coming from. And this isn't just one owner that we've seen this with. This is anyone who's implemented bucket methodology and has done it in a consistent basis and followed the systems that we talk about in Project X. They've all developed cash reserves throughout that just mean, whether it's an unexpected bill or an expected bill, either of those, it's actually worse when it's an expected bill and you don't have the money.
Yeah.
That's sitting in your mind. Unexpected, at least you didn't know about it. But when you know about it and you don't have the money, that's painful. Equally, though, it's such a nice feeling when you have the money sequestered in its bucket and you're just waiting for the bill to come so you can pay it. And actually, you're in this strange situation where you're asking your advisor, can you please give me the tax bill because I want to pay it now? And you might be asking that a month or two in advance of it being due. That power dynamic, that change is really, really powerful from a confidence perspective.
Well, I remember the exact conversation you're talking about. I was there, and that part was really cool because this doctor owner was very excited about that change. But the other bit of that was probably more awesome was just touching a bit on what we talked about earlier, where he said now he has a lot more time for family, and Saturdays are now reinvested in doing the things that he wants to be doing with young kids. To me, that was a real highlight. But that theme of having financial buffers, and the other thing that they do, and we heard one of our Project X members say this, is the difference it made to them was they could sleep at night. They just knew that that there was some kind of a safety margin there, that if there was a misstep or if something happened to this person that still had substantial key person risk in it, by far the biggest contributor to billings. But if something happened, it wouldn't be a catastrophe because there were buffers now in place. And that's pretty exciting. The bucket methodology sounds easy, doesn't it, Sachin? But there are a lot of forces arrayed against you in getting this done, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about who might try and stop you from doing this?
Yeah, everyone. So you got forces within and forces without. So within, it's going to be everyone telling you, it's too complicated. Why do I need all these buckets of money? It's too much hassle, too much headache. So that will be whoever's managing the money in your business, whether that's PM, bookkeeper, and then our friends, our accountants, who are wonderful, resources for our business and they're part of our dream team. But the reality is most accountants are telling us what's happened in the past. They're not generally able to tell us what's happening right now. And so they may not see the need or the reasoning for following a bucket accounting methodology. But human psychology is pretty simple. We look at what's in the bank account, and that guides what we're going to spend. So I would say, regardless of who's saying no, just get on with, bucket methodology is one of the most powerful practical financial management methodologies. And everyone will have heard of the barefoot investor, for personal finances. Very similar, but you do that in your business. And having those buckets really clearly defined, so powerful. And then the main question is, would you like to be in a position where that when your tax bill comes, that money's completely set aside safely? When you're that January crunch, Todd, in January, most practices will know this, where in January what happens is that you're carefully often watching your income, waiting for a PIP payment to land before you pay your BAS. January, February time, and it's a really uncomfortable time, and practices report that, clinics report that every single year. Just not having to be at the mercy of that is incredibly empowering.
Yeah, and you'll often have 3 pay cycles in January too, right? So that's the other thing that occurs in Jan to make a lot of fun. I used to joke that you should close your general practice on Christmas Day and reopen after Easter. Just open an ice cream shop in the meantime, and you'd probably be calling it about evens. That's probably not business advice of mine that you should take, but I thought it was reasonable at the time. I think people often forget that your BAS and your taxes, they're not management accounts. Those they're not even prepared for you. Actually, they're prepared for the state and the federal governments is what they're prepared for, just so they know how much of your money they can take, and that's the only purpose they have. So it is important to have a structure that what money is yours for now and in the future, and real cash in the pocket is what we focus on. We've had a few of those conversations, haven't we, Sachin, when we said, how's the business going? People say, my accountant says it's going well. And so what do you think? Where's the money? I don't like it. I don't have the money. Right, okay, so that would be called depreciation. That's not real money in your pocket. All right, I think that's probably enough that we can draw this episode to a close. If you're satisfied, we've covered as much as we can in a short drive. Sachin, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So 2 things we ask everybody to do that's listening in at the end of an episode. Firstly, what was most relevant for you today? And what one single action, you can do more if you like, but one single minimum, what would you take on the basis of this episode? So what will you do based on what you heard here? We'd love you to share this episode with a colleague. I'm sure you know somebody that this is most valuable for right now. If they own a private practice or they're considering getting into private practice ownership, then send an episode through to them. And if you'd like more info, then you can go to the episode notes or jump on our website, scalемyclinic.com. That's all from both of us today. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning into the Scale My Clinic podcast with Todd and Sachin and the team. For more information and to get the resources mentioned in this podcast, visit www.scalemyclinic.com.